Welcome back to The Price of Business. I'm your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. As you know, we do a lot of different articles and cool content over there at priceofbusiness.com. And recently, we were doing a series of articles about how to reach enterprise-level CEOs. And I'm going to be interviewing a CEO himself, John Stapleton. He's with Pascal, Stapleton, and Lord. It's a higher education marketing firm. John, welcome to the program. How are you today?
I'm really good, Kevin. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for participating in our interview over at priceofbusiness.com, and glad we were able to actually elaborate it here on the program. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and your firm's background.
Sure. Well, I started off as a newspaper photographer and quickly moved into the corporate world. Thought I was a young hotshot, so I went off on my own. Met Jim Pascal. That was 26, 27 years ago. And then we realized how hard it was to actually be a hotshot. So I'm married, also 25, 26 years. Have two kids. One's just graduating from 8th grade, and one's moving up into junior year of high school. And, one of the things that people find a little odd about me is that I keep studying languages, and I'm working on Chinese now. It's just a great challenge.
Yeah, by the way, that's a great way of keeping your brain young. And also, I think it makes time last longer. I don't know if are you familiar with the book Time Warped?
Time Warped? No, but I'm writing it down so I can look at it. And part of the reason I like Chinese and other languages is they're just a great puzzle, and it's a lot of memory work. So
yeah, and that book Time Warp, the book Time Warp argues is that the older we get, the faster time flies, and the reason why is we're stuck in more and more routine. We're doing the exact same thing over and over again. While we were younger, we were always doing new things. Well, if you're continuously learning new languages, you're having that young person approach to life, and it actually makes life seem to extend longer. And so, more power to you. Keep it up. Tell us a little bit about this question, though, that we addressed over at priceofbusiness.com. And I want to encourage people to check out our more recent articles. You'll see John Stapleton over there. But talk a little bit about this, the dilemma of trying to reach enterprise-level individuals with all the technology out there, all the accessibility ostensibly out there. You'd think it'd be easier, but I find it can be even harder simply because there's so many distractions out there when it comes to reaching these people. Kind of give us your sense of the landscape out there.
Without a doubt, your read on it is right on. And I think nowadays, I was just listening to one of my employees. He was saying, kids nowadays think of a phone call the way we used to think of a meeting. You actually have to make a time for a phone call. Nobody takes phone calls, not the C level, not the VP level, not the level at the bottom. So the real trick is getting your name out there and your level of expertise. So when these folks need your service, they actually come to your website, they find you. It's a totally different way of doing business. The old sales methodology, while we do it, we're sending out lots of emails, we're sending out promotional material, but it's gotten way harder.
Yeah, it has. In fact, it's so funny. I had a communication breakdown on the way into the studios where I was calling someone that I was supposed to meet with, and we got there later, and that person, so it was my fault. It was kind of a crazy morning. But and we kind of agreed to have a phone meeting at this time. And it was so funny. She goes, hey, I tell you what, I have a certain deadline now because we're running late. Just give me a call after your afternoon engagement that I have. I have a speech this afternoon. And I go, oh, in my mind, I was like, oh, I guess we'll never have this meeting. Because we don't have it scheduled. If it's not scheduled, I'm not doing it. As simple as that.
It really is that way. The other thing that we've done to kind of circumvent this whole idea that you need these meetings for a meeting is because it's hard to buy the services we sell. They're expensive at the bigger level. So we've developed a whole level of what I call foot in the door products, where we're kind of under the radar screen of the purchasing people at the big state institutions or the big schools. A director of admissions can actually make a decision on a $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 project, and once we get in the door, we give them a great amount of knowledge for what we're doing. But what we have is 2 days to actually talk to people in person, and then maybe for a week or two after that, they'll keep taking your phone calls.
Right. Right, a very narrow window, and you better keep it open or it's going to close. So tell me, first of all, are there particular size of universities that you like to focus on? I notice there's a lot of private colleges is what I'm seeing when I visit the website, which is psnl.com. But tell me a little bit, kind of give me a profile of a typical client.
Well, 5-10 years ago, we used to think that our typical college was a small private liberal arts school, usually faith-based. But we're finding that with the Great Recession that we had, with the state budget cuts so that tuition is more expensive at a state school, a lot of state schools are coming to us too because they need to sell the value of their institution to their prospects. If you were the kind of family that could actually afford $50,000 a year for college, maybe you're looking at a $40,000 or a $35,000 a year college, and the same thing just cascades down. But the need for our marketing services and our communication skills are still so important for all the schools. It's just such a competitive marketplace out there right now for the schools.
Incredibly competitive. It's brutal. And now, you got people, I notice almost a factory mentality, with the advent of web-based education and cranking out degrees with as little engagement between students and actual faculty and a lot of engagement with technology. I tell you, it's an interesting time. I expect degrees to become ridiculously cheaper over time, not more expensive.
Well, there's a couple schools. There's a school in Georgia that's offering a master's for about $7,000 right now online, and it's an experiment for them. Normal masters would go $50,000 to $75,000 a year. So for $14,000, they're saying they're going to give you the same level of education, and people are just waiting to see. From my side of it, marketing those kinds of programs is a challenge because you don't know who wants to get that MBA. It's not like you can just buy a list of people who are in the market for an MBA. You have to do television advertising. You have to do newspaper advertising. And again, get them to call into you. They're doing research on the web, and they call into you, whether that's that experimental project down in Georgia or going to MIT.
Yeah, it's incredible time. So what level of the organization do you have to pitch to?
Well, we work all of the angles we can. I look at it as like a trident or a pitchfork. We continue to sell our foot in the door programs. We have a big marketing push that goes out across the year for those. And at the same time, I have a letter series that goes out to CEOs, chancellors of universities to talk about the big projects because ideally, what a firm like mine wants to do is to work with a school holistically. There's so many components of marketing nowadays, and they all have to connect, and you have to have the different departments in the school coordinated. So, my ideal client is somebody who hires us to do everything and believes in our strategy and believes in our communication skills. At the same time, I have to go with the fact that a $5,000 purchase is easier to make than a $50,000 or a $500,000 one. So we come at it from both angles.
Yeah. So the highest level you would go to an organization would be like the dean level, or?
Well, the deans typically are in charge of the academic side of things.
Right. So it'd be someone like, it'd be someone like VP of marketing or someone like that would be
exactly.
Yeah.
VP of enrollment management. A lot of schools are having a chief marketing officer now. And at the smaller schools, and by a small school, it could be $20 to $50 million in tuition revenue. But at the smaller schools, you can talk to a president as well. Once you get up into the state schools, the president approves things, but they're generally not involved with marketing on a day-to-day basis with a firm like ours.
Yeah, and so obviously higher up to help. The higher up, the better, I would assume, though. The more advocates you can get, the more influence you can get, obviously, the better.
Oh, without a doubt. If you can build a relationship with a vice president of enrollment management. Maybe you met them at a conference. You had a great conversation. You follow up with phone calls. They explore your website. When those folks are interested, when they think, they know that they need a new website redesign. They know that they need advertising. So they're out there searching in this higher education marketing vertical, and there's firms all across the country like ours, but it's a really fragmented industry.
Yeah, very much so. I would believe that, and very wildly variant in terms of how they do things. Because let's face it, education institutions aren't exactly cutting edge when it comes to societal change. And so, although they sure have caught on the whole virtual degree programs, John Stapleston, he's been our guest. Thanks so much for your time.
Well, thank you, Kevin. Thank you.
That website, psandl.com, psandl.com. Check them out. When we come back, much more for you. Do want to remind you, best content here. It shows up over there at usdailyreview.com. And I am Kevin Price.